Okay, my name is Dhanendra Furthermore. Today I am going to talk about the relevance of non-aligned movement in 21st century. Now, why I'm doing this? This is a project for, well, this is my practice for IUP intake. This is my speaking practice for, the interview and maybe for the ACEPT, if I'm not mistaken. ACEPT stands for Academic English Proficiency Test, basically TOEFL-like test. Now, again, I'm already saying, I already said what I want to cover: non-aligned movement and its relevance in 21st century. So the non-aligned movement was first founded in 1961. It was a movement, aligned, not alignment. It was a movement, a bloc, essentially, to deter the influence and the hegemony of the two world powers, to deter the bipolarization in the Cold War, and it was founded by five statesmen, the leader of five countries, namely Jawaharlal Nehru from India, Joseph Tito of Yugoslavia, Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, Sukarno of Indonesia, and the Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana. Now, the main I already said what was the main focus of the NAM. It is to deter the influence, the hegemony of uh, two world powers, United States and USSR. And now, with the gone of USSR, the Cold War essentially has ended because we only have sole superpowers. Well, if you consider China is a superpowers, but I would say that China is a rising power, great power indeed, but not yet a superpower. Maybe in like 5 years or a decade, it would, it could be a superpower, or it will be a superpower. So let's settle this time as of let's say 2015, before the trade war between U.S. and China appears. And my argument for this is that with the end of Cold War, what this non-aligned stance is for, and with they essentially lack purpose because it is no longer a bipolar world between United States and USSR, and so they need to renew their stance, their issue to push for their existence to be relevant and not redundant. Now, my argument here are mainly against the relevance of the non-aligned movement, and I didn't make an argument that supports the relevance of the non-aligned movement. Maybe I would make that, but this is for uh, my uh, desire, just to make it irrelevant. Very, very biased, and well, that's why I cheat. So don't put this for like an argument. May not be optimized for running. Okay. Sorry, that's computer problem. Now, my main argument is that nowadays the non-aligned movement lack political cohesion. Back in 1961, when it was established with the Conference of Belgrade, it was only consisted of 25 member states. Nowadays, it consisted of 120 member states. Each have their own vision, as their own interest, and some of them have conflicted interests. Uh, and to keep these countries, this large portion of countries, to stick together to a motion is hard. It's basically smaller version of UN. We're talking about it because UN consisted of 193 countries and non-aligned movement consisted of 120. It is the second largest organization after the UN, and a bloc this big cannot actually hold their members together and cannot uh, be coherent because again they are too big, too slow for them to make any significant opinions, significant consensus or action to pursue in global and concerning issues. Now, I'm going to talk about the lack of political cohesion more in this argument. Now, one of the example is when we look at the proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Both are uh, both are member states of the non-aligned movement, and yet both again conflict have a very big uh, conflict of interest. They are in proxy war, and they are aligned with major powers, namely United States and Russia, even though they are in a non-aligned movement. Quite ironic, doesn't it? And the non-aligned, these case, the Saudi Arabia and Iran is only one in many numerous cases in and AM, the non-aligned movement. India and Pakistan also members of the non-aligned movement, and yet they are still in quite of a dispute, and they are not uh, in a very stable relationship. They are very, uh, what can I say, fragile, and there are multiple border conflicts, and even though the principle of the non-aligned movement is to preserve peace and prioritize say not use to threaten any state, and to be non-aligned to any great powers or any major powers, since the name itself non-aligned movement. Yet this happens, and with the absence of second world powers, namely USSR, many of the non-aligned movement members become very, they have a very close relations with the US. And another thing that I want to say, another thing that I want to add to strengthen my argument is that the situation in Syria. Now, another another uh, another principle, another issues that the NAM or not a non-aligned movement wanted to push is that they want for countries, especially back in 1961, it was newly independent states, and for nowadays, we would say developing states that have small power in global politics to actually stand a chance to counter the hegemony of major powers. Yet, this failed in Syria because the US, well, in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, all of them are the member of the non-aligned movement, and yet they still get invaded. Well, not invaded, intervened by the US. And I'm going to talk mainly about Syria here. The ironic things about Syria is that The intervention in Syria was done by United States and also Turkey and also Saudi Arabia, which was also the member of the non-aligned movement. This is ironic, and if the non-aligned movement, okay, let's say that even with the Cold War ended, they now stands for for opposition against major power to basically rampage to any developing country, small countries with which has little political power. But this does not happen. Syria got intervened and they ramped into chaos. And the one who intervened also is a member state of the non-aligned movement, and also the major power, which basically ruined the very basic, uh, very basic principle, very basic purpose of the non-aligned movement. And this is very concerning because if now let's be fair, maybe the non-aligned movement cannot impose their will at every corner of of what happened in world politics. Maybe that's the case, but I, in my research, I don't see any significant, any meaningful action or action basically that is being proposed or being done by the non-aligned movement. And that is sad because with the non-aligned movement not actually stands, and now they they still have meetings, several meetings, but they cannot reach anything. They cannot achieve anything, even when there is consensus in things like, where is it? In things like terrorism. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, terrorism, labor, child labor, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that things, the action, they have no actions, or they have achieved nothing, even when there is consensus. With that said, uh, it is a pretty redundant organization. It basically cannot achieve anything. Many other organizations like ASEAN, uh, the European Union, have better uh, performance. And well, in conclusion, if the non-aligned movement wanted to stay relevant, to stay, uh, wanted to stay relevant and don't want to become redundant, they need to think about their rejuvenation, or they need to set out new vision, because what I see, and what I saw is that they have they have no vision. Their main their father figures, the five statement have, and now after the fall of Soviets and the end of Cold War, they have none. With that first being settled, and after that they need to pursue their main issues, this vision to accomplish. And so they need to uh, gather political cohesion, gather uh, centrality to actually become relevant again. Well, that is my argument about the redundancy of non-aligned movement, because it is not relevant in the 21st century, and more organization actually is actually more relevant, like the ASEAN, the European Union. I don't know whether the Arab League is relevant or not. The African Union, maybe. Uh, I'm not very sure because I has basically zero research on that, and also the SAARC also I would say failed because India and Pakistan will always fight for dominance in South Asia. East China, East Asia is currently in political, I would say, uh, political struggle. China, Japan, and South Korea, they don't get along very well. That's why it's very. They have a very. I don't think they have a regional organization. Yeah, they don't have regional organization in East Asia. ASEAN is better in a lot of aspects. We are very peaceful, except for the current Myanmar events, which is very saddening. I hope that Myanmar would resolve the issues quickly and with small casualties. Yeah, that's it. Goodbye.